Welcome to the Nick and Matt Show. Bringing the player interviews you want to hear and the hot topics you want to discuss. Streaming live on the Foundation Podcast YouTube channel, here's Nick and Matt.
Well, Nick, we have made it unbelievably to episode number 50. That's 50.
Episode 50. I'm pretty surprised at that, actually, in a sense of like, holy cow, we've already done 50 episodes.
50.
That's kind of insane.
And you know what? I'm pumped.
Yeah.
Last week's episode, now granted, people listening later, not live, they all get hopefully what they expect, and it's good interviews, or at least the people coming on are cool. And last week, Nick, we care about something. It was cool for us. We actually hit just shy, literally like 7 people shy of 2,000 concurrent live viewers at one time during this live stream. That's like...
And that was what, let's see, 3 times, almost 4 times greater than our previous best.
Yeah, honestly, was it with Macbeth, or I don't remember who it was now. Sexton. We've had a lot of good ones.
No,
Simon.
it was a Simon one. It was a Simon one that we had in studio. We got up to like 570 or 580 or something like that.
570. Now we've got a mark that's going to be.
And now we have
a
massive milestone to try to beat out now.
Well, we did it in our first 50. So let's say in the next 50, if we can break that record, then we're on the right track. Well, maybe we're on the right track, but that would be another good mark.
That'd be sweet.
Okay. We have a really, really cool interview lined up tonight with James Conrad, everybody. He will be on the show. It's getting pushed a little bit here. Don't run away, but it's probably going to be in about 40 minutes or so. Nick and I have some topics, hopefully to entertain you, to keep you engaged until we get to the moment of climax, can I say?
Yeah.
Nick, I was hanging out, filming with Simon today. And just to put it out there real quick, I'm going to brag just a little bit. Yes, he did give me a premium tilt.
Look at that.
I don't know if I've laughed that much throwing a disc in like quite a while, actually. Have you've thrown one?
Yep. They're insane. It's wild.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Literally.
It's like it doesn't. The first time he told me to throw it, he was like, all right, throw it over hole 1 white at Maple Hill. He's like, don't aim at the water though, aim a little left. And I was like, cool. And he was like, but throw it flat and hard. And so I threw it literally probably as hard as I could, nice and flat. And within like the first 100 feet, just started dive bombing left. And I was like, all right, I don't really know what the point of this disc is, but for you, it's pretty awesome.
I don't want to give away all the marketing genius, but I asked him, I said, okay, so like really, Simon, what's the inside scoop? Like, what is this disc good for? He's like, it is good for certain shots. He said it is good for, I threw it as hard as I could. Now I'm not a power thrower, but my literal first shot just made me laugh because of how fast it falls out of the sky.
Yeah, exactly.
It wants to hit the ground. And so one other lucky, probably others out there in the world, but one other lucky guy at the park got one of these. And we said, or I said, I'm like, throw that as hard as you can in front of Simon right now, just to show, like, I want you to see. He's like, I could probably use it as a flex shot disc. And I'm like, no, you can't. There's no flex shot with it. It just, it starts and then it ends. Yeah, that's what it is. Upside down. And it's weird, as he said, and this is not an ad for the tilt, but it's coming out at some point. I'll just say that I was filming with Simon on it. Thank you, Simon, for the fun. The softer you throw it, it actually seems to go a little bit further because it's actually reverse.
No,
it's almost reverse engineered. The harder you throw it, the more overstable it gets. So
I gotcha.
Really, and especially upside down. That's another way to do it. You've been busy. You were out at Worlds. You came back. What have you been up to since you got back?
Yeah. Went out to Worlds. Came back just about a week ago? Yeah, I think a week ago tomorrow. Oh, no, a week ago yesterday. I came back anyways, and then I actually just went out and played a tournament this past weekend, which I didn't do great in, but at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, my body was pretty exhausted after Worlds, and I really didn't get to play that much disc golf since getting back home, because I'm actually starting to now pursue my real estate license and get going with kind of, a professional job down here in Virginia and just pursuing a career that I want to do besides for disc golf. Real estate's been something that I've been talking about the last few months, and I'm finally able to get everything going. I have an appointment with the DMV tomorrow to transfer all my stuff and officially become a Virginian person. and I don't really know what they call themselves, but yeah, I'm pretty excited. But I'm pretty wiped out from it.
Man, why do we have to work in this life? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's always a hustle. That's always no matter what, if I gave up the podcast, the multiple podcasts I'm doing, the things that I start, all my ambitions, right? I give them all up. Guess what? I started again. I am just a hustler.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Nick, we have made it to the point in 50 episodes where we have a very cool thing tonight. You want to shave some strokes off your game, Nick?
I do. Every single weekend I think about shaving some strokes off my game.
All right. Well, perfect. Support for the Nick and Matt show tonight is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. That's pretty epic, Nick. Woo. Oh, you're holding up a box there. Nice.
I am. This is the box. It's actually pretty sweet, but I'll let you finish what you got to say.
Manscaped offers, this is what you were just showing us, precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer. That's what you have there, I believe. The Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, everybody. The Lawnmower 4.0. So join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer. It is up on the screen now for those of you watching. Use the code Nick and Matt for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. So this exclusive offer, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with this code. Nick, I started out with a joke. You want to shave some strokes off your game. But the reality is, Nick, we do not throw balls, but you can shave them. So
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So what is it about this product that you find enjoyable? I actually have one too, and I can let you know, but pull it out. There you go.
So I'm actually holding it up right now, but for me, it's nice and durable actually. Like it's got a nice feel to it. And then it's also lightweight. So it's, not a kind of like a pain in the butt to hold around and do what you need to do when it comes to shaving. And for all the people out there who potentially were using a shaver for your face and for your jewels, now just go out and get the Manscaped 4.0, and this thing will be a lifesaver, and you can use it specifically for the family jewels.
That's right. Nick, once I saw the 4.0 waterproof, you better believe I tried it out. Took it to the shower. I said, there's no way I'm going to try to break this thing. It did not break. It did not break. One of the other cool features is that it has inductive charging. I am an electrician safety professional. Induction is a real thing. Wireless electricity. And it charges that way. Very cool. It definitely shaves longer than you'd ever have to. I think I could shave my whole body. And look at me. I'm a hairy man. So.
It's amazing. It's easy to use. And I mean, it's the latest of their technology, and it comes with a couple different sizes depending on what your comfort is for shaving, and which is also nice. Like you said, the wireless charging is a huge bonus. It's got an LED light on it, so lighting is not an issue as well.
Yeah. Oh, I know. The light. This is like a toy. Like my kid wants to play with it, but he's not ready yet.
Yeah. Exactly.
So again, get 20% off your order. And by the way, I can't tell you how much cash dollars that is saving you, but potentially it's saving you hundreds of dollars, potentially. And get it shipped for free. 20% off using the code Nick and Matt. Nick, I thought of this. You don't like finding yourself in the rough. Well, you're already laughing. So trimming the rough is important. Get out of it. Let's get on the fairway. Enjoy your life. And I have to say, they also sent a pair of boxers. That's all I'm going to say. On the disc golf course, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, the boxers have been super comfortable, and they gave us a really, really nice shirt, which was enjoyable. It was nice fabric, comfortable to wear, and everything like that. So,
I just got to say, I said to my wife, "Hey, ready for this awesome sponsorship that I got?" And she just looks at me and shakes her head. She's like, "That is totally you." So it is.
Exactly.
Join the 2 million men. Everybody, get in on this. Thank you, Manscaped, for joining disc golf in this form. Everybody, go show love to Manscaped. All right.
Use code Nick and Matt.
Yeah, that's the thing. Nick and Matt on the website. All right. We had 2 significant events happen this past weekend. We had Clash of the Canyons, which is DGPT Silver Series, which I do want to talk about that in just a second, and the Majestic. Okay. Do you remember, Nick, and this is where I kind of start the conversation before we get into the stats revolving around that. Do you remember the beginning of this season? In your mind, did Silver Series and your Elite Series have a big difference? Like, or were they very similar in nature at the beginning of the season?
No, I think for the most part, depending on when the events were, I think kind of determined how competitive the event was, in the sense of like, if it was right after Waco, I think it was, one of the Silver Series events after that was pretty close for everyone. And so a ton of the top guys went to it. You know, the 1050 rated guys, the 1040 rated guys all went to those events. But I think this one, lately, the highest rated guy at the tournament was 1034, being Nico LaCastro. So we didn't see, you know, Paul Macbeth. We didn't see Nate Sexton. We didn't see Ricky Wysocki, Eagle McMahon, Chris Dickerson, any of these players. And we also didn't see our new world champion, James Conrad, because he was competing at another event out in Minnesota. So when it comes to the competitiveness, obviously it's a competitive event. It's a Silver Series. There's live coverage on the final day, but it doesn't have that, you know, massive competitiveness like the normal DGPT Elite Series events have had throughout the year.
Yeah, and I guess just generally, you're not wrong with your assessment. I felt like after the pandemic, the season of disc golf last year in 2020 was so messed up that, like, when disc golf returned this year, the Silver Series events seemed so epic to me, because everybody was looking for every opportunity to play, including Paul Macbeth, Ricky Weiss, all the big names. And it was like, what is the literal difference between a Silver Series and the Elite Series? Because I felt like it was just the return, quote unquote, to disc golf. But with this event here, as you mentioned, Clash of the Canyons, I felt like it was kind of a return to what the Silver Series originally was.
Yeah, it was kind of like that, you know, lower level tour of, you have these touring players who potentially will go to this event, but for the most part, it's your touring players that are really looking to play every single weekend. They're doing this and they need to make cash every single weekend to kind of get to that next event, which, you know, I like the Silver Series being that. It's kind of like you have the pro tour, your massive tour that every best name in the world is going to go to, and then you have a smaller tour that some of the big names may go to it, but mostly it's lower level names trying to kind of make a name for themselves out on the road right now. So it gives them a great opportunity to still travel to an event, hopefully make some decent money and get their name out there, especially with the Disc Golf Network doing the media coverage for the final day. And I'm pretty sure most of these events have had post-round production as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt there's value there. It was just a perception of mine. Now, granted, you did have two events that were significant, one being long-term. Obviously, they're both well-standing events, but the Majestic has, you know, a long history to it. Everyone from Climo to Fellberg to everybody has won that. I say everybody. The big names have won that event, and you have an opportunity to do that. So we're going to talk about both of those right now. Let's start out with Clash of the Canyons. You have somebody named Dan Schlitter. Have you ever met this individual in person by chance?
I have not, and I think I've only heard the name a few times, but I've never met him.
Okay. He takes it down 28 under par. That's pretty typical for a disc golf tournament, right? He performed really well for himself, playing better, looks like, than he usually does on average, taking first place in a lot of the UDisc stats, except for incredibly almost last place in circle 2 putting, but everything else was so good. His scramble, getting to circle 1 in reg, fairway hits, getting off the pad to the basket, incredible. So congrats to Dan Schlitter. Nick, you have those stats pulled up. By the way, as you pull those up, shout out to Stat Mando. Follow them on Twitter, follow them on their website, statmando.com. They provide us all these stats, and we're looking to actually do a lot more featuring of really interesting stuff that they go and find and share on their Twitter. Nick, what else do you see there in the MPO that stands out to you for this Clash of the Canyons?
Well, I think one of the biggest things to take away from this weekend is that it came down to a playoff, and we had just witnessed a pretty big playoff happen at Worlds. And so to go to an event now a week after that and to be able to see another playoff at a Silver Series event is pretty awesome. Terry Roethlisberger, another Team Discraft guy on the tour team, was able to also shoot 28 down, has a lot of really good stats all across the board. He doesn't have anything in first place when it comes to the stats, but at the same time, he has a lot of like top threes, top fours, top twos, and any different stats. I think fairway hits 87%, getting third place in that. Circle 2 in regulation, pretty great. And looks like 88% circle 1 putting. And then kind of rounding out the podium was Chandler Fry, once again, another Team Discraft tour team guy, shooting 27 down, 1 back of the lead and 1 back of playing in that playoff. And he was first place in gained putting strokes and also had the highest rated round of the event, being 1067 in round 2. Birdie percentage, she was first, and Circle 1X putting slated with 100% Circle 1X putting throughout the whole event, which is pretty awesome, no doubt.
Yeah. Excuse me, clearing my throat. Brody Smith, a name that gets brought up fairly often now in disc golf, shot 1 stroke off of like a hot round, I believe. Was it 2 strokes or 1 stroke?
I think he was 2 strokes off the hot round after the first round.
Okay, so an excellent round, shooting well. He doesn't want to hear this, but shooting a significant portion better than his average, which means he's continuing to show that he has a higher ceiling. That's really what's happening here. And unfortunately, I'm sure even for his own expectations, he did not finish the way that he would have probably hoped. Now, I've not talked to him, but I've talked to others about it, and I think just generally he gets a pass this year for the most part, and he's talked about it himself. His consistency right now is lacking. He is showing phenomenal ceiling, like where he can get to, but then he's not doing that obviously every round. And what does it take to do it every round? To pretty much be Paul McBeth, or everybody has their off rounds, but like to do it on such a high level, what does it take? I mean, is he going to be able to do it next year?
Literally, I feel like literally just doing it over and over and over. I think that's anything when it comes to consistency, is just doing it a very repetitive amount. If you want to get better at putting from 20 feet, then do 1,000 putts from 20 feet a day. And eventually your body is going to develop that muscle memory. I think the same thing comes in disc golf, to where if you're going to want to hit those shots, you have to practice hitting those shots. And I feel like that's pretty much where the biggest, obviously he has great form when it comes to putting. He has great backhand form, decent forehand form. And he has all the tools to be able to compete at that high level, as we've seen a couple times this year. Now it's just building up the consistency. And look who he's competing against, guys who have been playing for 10 plus years. They've been playing and touring for the last 5 years maybe, and he's still keeping up with them. He was only 6 strokes back this last tournament. So he's right there. He ended up dropping out of the top 10, finished at 11th place. But if he had gained, shot 1 stroke better, he would have been tied for 9th place. So he's competing at a high level. And like you said, he may not be too happy about it, but at the same time, he's playing very well.
Yeah. And I guess you say 1 stroke better. Round 2 is where he fell off, and I'm sure it just felt horrible. All right. Enough about Brody. 4th place. I jumped to Brody because he was a notable name, but Gannon Burr, actually, I sponsored by Prodigy. Also picked up recently by Foundation Disc Golf.
By the Foundation, yep.
That kid, we interviewed him.
We did.
Really nice guy. Was injured, came back off an injury, and honestly, he's always feeling, I say he's always, either he's very, very good at evaluating his own game. He's saying, I'm underperforming, but that's when he's shooting 1,040 rated rounds.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, throughout the event, he was averaging, 1038 throughout the whole event, which was, 20 points above his rating.
Yeah.
So obviously he's playing very well. We've heard his name a couple times this year, especially dating back to Waco, actual Elite Series event. He was on lead card. And so he's right up there. He's a young guy too. He's got a ton of potential, and he'll keep going out there as long as he stays injury free.
Only 2 strokes off of tying the win. Like, he did great. Yeah, so a shout out also, you already said this, but Chandler Fry, I just want to hit on it one more time. That guy, had the opportunity to hang out with him a little bit. What a nice guy. An incredible disc golfer.
Chandler's really nice.
That just brings me to a note here, Nick. Anybody that's like a top 50 or 100 in the world in anything is pretty good at what they do. To say that anybody on tour is not that good at disc golf would be a way massive, overstatement or understatement, however you want to look at it. Like, you're good at, and I say that as a surprise, you're good at disc golf. The difference sometimes, if you say over 5 rounds, 10 strokes or 15 strokes, That's still significant. Over 90 throws, you're only throwing 15 more. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's to do it where that one stroke literally matters. The one stroke, like that's where it gets super incredible.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, especially because every single player after an event can look at all the things that they should have done better. Any player, there's no player right now. I don't think there's ever been a round where a player said that was it. That was the most amazing round in the world. And Paul's 18 down at Toboggan is probably the closest thing to it. But at the same time, he has a par in that round on hole 10. So every single round, someone's going to say, oh, I could have done this better. You know, all it took for Chandler was to shoot one stroke better, and he's in a 3-way playoff now for first place at a Silver Series event. So, yeah, it's whoever in the game of disc golf, it's whoever makes the least mistakes. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good way to look at it. I was going to say, well, I make the most, but it's also who makes the most good shots with the least mistakes. But
yes,
okay,
who capitalizes on the most?
Yeah. So Kristen Tatar, a name that has been talked about because she is now not in Europe; she's in the USA. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I had her, and I say obviously, I put her in a significant place to possibly even win Worlds. I said second. She performed pretty well, not surprisingly, having probably jet lag and everything else leading into it, but she took it down. Clash of the Canyons. I'm glad for her that she comes to the US and she wins one. Before you or anybody says, well, who was there at that event? And I'm going to give credit to Brody here. As Brody would say, who cares? A win is a win is a win. And I generally agree with that. But now Brody goes, who cares about this? But we can also look, her performance was 984. And I'll tell you what, that may not have been enough to beat Paige at her best, but that's a pretty dang good round. And where you could have, it's not a fluke.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? She was averaging 14 points above her rating while doing that on her way to first place. So, averaging above your rating in general is always going to be a good sign. And when you're able to do that and win a tournament, that's an even better sign. So you can see she's playing at a level that is above what her average is. And it gives her the confidence going into different events, throughout the year. And so hopefully this is a good stepping stone. And I was actually able to briefly talk with Kristen a little bit after actually trying to get her onto the show today. But she said she feels good. She's confident. She's got some stuff going on right now, but for the most part, be planning to see her name on the leaderboard at a lot of these events, whether Paige, Kat, and Haley King aren't at those events. You'll see Kristen's name very consistently.
I thought you were going to say, everybody plan, you will see her name on the Nick and Matt show episode number or whatever.
Eventually, hopefully. That's the plan.
It is the plan. And another name that I would like to have on here, a person. I will give them that, a person, not a name. Sarah Gilpin. She took second place here, finishing 3 strokes behind Kristen, performing actually pretty good for herself. Again, a lot of these women stepping up to play some of their best golf this past weekend. Just generally, like some first place finish in stats, second place finishes in stats, just generally an all around good performance out of her, with round 3 being her best performance. But you had other notable names, Holly Finley. And again, for those of you this year who are fairly new, I say notable, Juliana Korver, and you say, well, I haven't heard about her before. Let's go way back. She's multi-world champion, 5-time world champion.
Yeah, 5-time. Yep. JK AVR is named after her and everything like that. She's got her own AVR, plastic and everything. Juliana, incredible player, did play well at this event. Obviously getting 4th place at it is great. Sarah Hokum finishing 7th, but a name to kind of talk about really quick is Innova's team member Holly Finley, because this was, I'm not sure exactly how the course played out, but from what I heard, it was more on the wooded side of everything. And that is where we see Holly Finley continue to succeed, is in the woods. I think one of them was is it Texas State's, the national tour earlier this year that Haley had won. Holly Finley was putting a nice run at it throughout that event and playing great.
And if this helps solidify your point, 2018, Holly Finley takes it down.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So, yes, this is an event that she is able to shine at. So, good job for her 3rd. And then Sarah Hokum underperformed according to how she normally plays, Nick. There's no way around it. She took a 7th place here. It is notable to point that out. I don't think she's on the decline, but she had that injury. She had to sit out for a while. She is not in prime condition, unfortunately. But that is where she found herself 7th place Clash of the Canyons.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on, I'm just going to say Dan Schlitter, this was his first A-tier win or better ever Clash of the Canyons. Congrats to him. And in same breath, I also want to point out, we also have another first-time A-tier or better winner in Noah Meintsma at the Majestic. Now, again, where did I get that stat from? Statmando.com.
Statmando.
Follow them on Twitter. Go to their website. Check out their cool tool. Statmando, thank you very much for providing us the insight on these stats. So Noah Meintsma beat out a big name, Nick. Who took 2nd place there?
One of my favorite disc golfers of all time, Kale Leveska, Mr. Airborne Disc Golf himself, kind of the guy running the Preserve course and everything like that, where they're going to see a DGPT later on this year. We watched the Preserve last year, but Kale has won this event multiple times, and I'm curious, actually, if we know how many times. Let's see.
I can look it up real quick.
He won it back in 2013.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure he's won the event before, but he's kind of like the local guy. Oh, he won it in 2017 as well.
Yep.
So maybe a 2-time, maybe even more than that. But definitely someone who plays that course a lot, plays that area, has a big name out there. And then I actually didn't know this, but Noah Meintsma, the kid who won the event sponsored by DGA, he is a local to that area. I was kind of reading his Instagram post earlier today. And so he said what an incredible feeling it was to kind of win for the home crowd. So shout out to him. Like Matt said, this is his first A-tier or better win in his career in Open. Until 2014, he won an A-tier, but playing the advanced division. So definitely
he has an
his
A-tier win, but it's an advanced.
Yeah, exactly.
But here's another thing. Again, I can't say it enough. Thank you to Statmando. Noah finished. This is really extraordinary. Nick, you might have looked here. Did you look and see where he finished at Worlds? Did you already see that?
I was literally just about to.
Let me put it out there for people driving around right now or in the chat. Think to yourself, how did Noah finish at Worlds? Obviously, we said he took 1st here at the Majestic. How did he finish at Worlds? I will come right back to that. Other notables here, Garrett Girthy taking 3rd place.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Jones tying for 3rd place. Good for him. He's performing well. Remember at the beginning of the season, what was our talk about Kevin Jones? Do you remember?
Where is Kevin Jones?
Yeah.
We were talking about that kind of week in and week out at this point. And then for the last couple of times, it's been good to see Kevin's name back up there. Obviously had a very, very strong showing up at Worlds. And yeah.
So I think I've given enough time for answers to come in on this. Noah finished 127th place at Worlds. 127th place. Nick, it doesn't really matter here, but you beat him out by like 80 or almost 90 places. But he goes out and he performs at the Majestic and takes it down over the current world champion who took 1st at Worlds. What a swing. What a swing.
Exactly. Kind of cool going from 127th and then a week after you go and play this massive A-tier and play and get obviously 1st place, but then James Conrad goes and wins the biggest event of his career and the biggest event of the year, and then goes and gets 12th place at this event. So it's kind of like all or nothing versus nothing or all in the sense of like what the two players kind of had to go out there and do. I think it's almost like when you watch a player get an ace in a tournament, which actually, funny story, this last tournament that I just played, I had my first ever career tournament ace. And then the next hole I parred, which was kind of a bummer. But it's like following up an ace. You almost never do a good shot after. I feel like that's kind of like if you win the world championships, like you're still on that world championship high. And so you go try to play an event right after, but it might not work out usually.
I like how you said that. It might not work out usually.
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 I feel like it doesn't, but at the same time, I don't know, maybe it does for some people. I have no idea.
It's got to be hard.
I'll have to hit up Statmando and see all the previous world champions. How did they do in the event right after?
Ooh, there you go. And they said they listen. They said they would follow it up.
Yeah.
Send that to me or send that. I don't know if you have Evan's phone number there at Statmando, but let's get that over to them. If there's a way to follow up world champions with their next PDGA event performance following Worlds, that's very interesting. We'll bring it back if they find it.
Yeah. I'm going to look up one of them, but you keep going.
You can look up Paul probably. Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
Other notables here. I mean, it goes down the list. But James Conrad is the most notable, getting 12th place here. He was the highest ranked per UDisc at that event, I believe. That's interesting. I'm pretty sure that's how that plays out there. And Noah took home a cash payout of $2,400. Good for him.
Not too shabby.
All right. Moving into, let me see. I'm just trying to see if there's something else I'm missing here that I want to talk about. Okay, Jessica Weese, FPO, takes it down. This is significant. Jessica Weese has had some pretty good performances this year. Actually, maybe a little bit. It's interesting. I don't know how you feel. I'll toss it over to you. Generally, how do you feel about Jessica's performance this year compared to other years? Not last year because it was so messed up. If I'm being honest from my perspective, I feel like she's playing, and if it's a tick or two, I feel like she's playing a little better than her average this year.
I want to say I agree with that in the sense of, she's not winning events week in and week out like some of the other ladies are in the FPO division, but we are seeing her name a lot, whether it's on lead card or she's got this smooth little throw in, especially with her sidearms. We're seeing Jessica's name, I think, more this year than we have in years past. And so I'm curious if this win is going to spark something leading forward into the rest of the events throughout the year. But we've definitely, I would say she's playing above her average throughout the whole year.
Yeah, that was my general takeaway too. I feel like I'm seeing her more, hearing her name more. It doesn't mean she's finishing out at every event well, but she's doing something that's above her average, just enough to be noticed. So good.
She's
for her.
Placing in the top 10 more than she's not. So I mean, that's obviously an incredible achievement in and of itself. Some of her biggest takeaways though are like 3rd at the OTB Open, 3rd at Vegas. 5th at DGPT's Dynamic Discs Open. The Portland Open, sorry. And then the Vintage Open, Silver Series event, she got 2nd. Bowling Green Open, which was just an A tier, she got 2nd. So she's got a lot of top 10 finishes, definitely playing well throughout the whole season.
I agree. So Ellen Widboom, 2nd place, and Lindsay Fish, 3rd place. 7 strokes back and 8 strokes back. So this was a significant, it's pretty much what you'd call a dominant victory, leading by 7 strokes or more.
Exactly, so especially at an event like this. I think one last thing, and then we can kind of segue into our next conversation, is really cool fact that both of the winners from these big events, whether it's Clash of the Canyons or the Minnesota Majestic, is both of the winners won from the chase card. So they made those pushes to come up out of nowhere. And at this point, obviously, we have UDisc live at one event. We got PDGA live scoring at another event. So you can actually see how players are doing. But Dan Schlitter was able to come back from the chase card and take down the win after the playoff. And then same thing with Noah. They both came out from the chase card and pushed out the win by 1 stroke. It's pretty cool. I think that was the first time that an event of that caliber that's happened to. And I think I was looking at someone posting on Twitter about it. I think these are the first 2 win from the chase cards at bigger events. More so talking about the Silver Series event. I think this is the first win of the year at a DGPT Silver Series or Elite Series that has happened from the chase card.
All right. I agree with everything you're saying. I got just a little bit caught up there. I noticed one of our previous guests was in our chat, and I was like, oh, interesting. Stacy Ronsley.
Hello.
Hey, hello, Stacy, if you're still there. Listen, this is a shout out. We talked about our most viewed show ever, right? Live viewers. Mm-hmm. She has a claim to fame on the Nick and Matt show that she can wear proudly if she cares to do so. Most downloaded podcast episode ever right now for Nick and Matt. Stacy Ronsley episode. I forget which one that is. It's probably in the 46, 7 or somewhere.
I was going to say 45, 46 maybe.
Somewhere in there.
47.
Go look it up.
Yeah, somewhere right around that.
I mean, we had Simon on for like 10 minutes, but he was kind of a surprise guest. So I'm giving all the credit to Stacy there.
I think she was the one who we promoted for that show too. As in, like, when we post the picture every single week, I'm pretty sure Stacy was the one we had promoted. So kudos to Stacy. That's pretty awesome.
She's got a large following, she just says, go check out the Nick and Matt show, and boom, there it is.
There it is.
All right, Nick. So we were doing some talking before, and you brought up an interesting point. If you want to kind of hit on it. And by the way, as you do, 10 minutes, James Conrad interview will take place in 10 minutes, everybody.
Exactly.
Sit tight.
10 minutes. So at 7:45, I want the chat to absolutely blow up Matt and saying it's time for the Conrad interview. Something Matt and I were actually talking about earlier today was the big discussion on live disc golf coverage versus post-production. And one of the questions that I asked him, Matt, and I'll ask you again, have you watched any of the post-round production from the World Championships?
Yes. But there's a, let me explain, I guess. So the yes is the short answer, but I typically, and this is not due to lack of support, I support production, post-production. I just want to get that out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I actually am not name dropping, but I support and text Jonathan Gomez fairly often and other post-produce people in the sport. I even do post-production at technically podcast for the Disc Golf Network.
Yeah. Yep.
I support it. It's important, but I don't typically watch it because I invest my time in watching it live.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's kind of somewhat pointless. Now, you asked if I did. Let me explain why. And this is great for media. Their production has come so far. They now include disc selection, and this is free advertisement for them, at least Jomez right now. And all of them have included upgrades, but disc selection, like what they're throwing, it pops up on the screen, how fast they're throwing, how far they're throwing. That's pretty incredible. That's the information that people want to know for live. If live gets that, then I don't know. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for post-produce to stay relevant.
Yeah.
I'll just say it.
I know, right?
It will be hard, but we're getting close. I have seen some distances on UDisc. So I will put it back to you. How much post-production do you watch? And then we can kind of start our 5 minutes of like, why do you like that one better than the other? Or why do you think that'll be better than the other?
So fortunately, obviously for Worlds, I was actually at the event. And so I didn't really feel the necessity to watch any of the post-round production because I saw everything play out as it was. I do remember watching the front nine of the Jomez first round. And the reason I watched it is because one of the guys came over to our Airbnb and did some filming stuff with Paul, I think for the Paul Macbeth Foundation, but he works for Jomez, came over, did some stuff, and he said this year is going to be the best year Jomez does at Worlds. And so I was curious at like the changes they made throughout the episode or the front nine, the back nine, whatever. And funny enough, I ended up watching the front nine and I was actually in it with Brody and Paul. We were throwing on the par 5 at the 4, I think hole 9. And it was just funny. But after that, actually, I didn't end up watching the full coverage at all. The only time I think now at this point that I've really been watching post-production is if something incredible happened on like the second or third card, I would watch it. But for the most part this year, I've just been so invested into live. And then afterwards, I don't really feel the need anymore to watch the post-production since I saw it live. And I kind of like those emotions more than I do the commentary from a team that saw pretty much everything happen live as well.
Yeah. So and we had Jomez on last year. It'd be interesting to have them on again this year when they swing up here through our home studio up in Leicester, Massachusetts, home of Maple Hill and a lot of other cool things.
Yeah.
To ask them again, because we asked them last year, like, hey, what's going to keep you relevant? They said, well, we have a unique market. Like, we are unique. Disc golf is different than other sports. So, like, we don't think that it needs to be one or the other. And they're not wrong. It doesn't need to be one or the other. But what we experienced at Pro Worlds definitely had me, other podcasts, other media people, professionals playing in the sport, athletes, saying that was an incredible show because everybody at one moment in time, not everybody, 37,000 people at one time saw the same thing happen and were able to share in that. And this was the first moment, and I shared this on my social media this week. This was the first moment I remember, Nick, where it was almost like any other sport where I would go on social media and that's all that was being talked about in that moment. And everybody was sharing that collectively at the same time. We have not had that in disc golf yet, in my opinion. Do you remember a time, or is this the first for you as well?
No, it's 100% a first for me in the sense of even looking at social media right now, every single day, I do see a different camera angle or, a different reshare of the post of James's shot, James's finish at Worlds. And it's been awesome. I've had people, random people who I either grew up with or people that I used to work with, and they've sent me videos on all the crazy things that are happening. Someone sent me a video actually of Ezra Aderhold throwing at hole 16. It hits the basket, almost aces it, but then rolls OB. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that I feel like could happen in disc golf. And, it's been really, really fun to watch and really, really fun to be a part of that kind of like transition into the live disc golf and how that should be the priority, I think personally.
we were not going to talk on this topic for longer than 5 more minutes from here on out. So sit tight, everybody. We're getting ready to buckle down for the James Conrad interview. But I have people in the chat right now, and I guarantee there's people driving around in their cars saying, Matt, we don't even watch the Nick and Matt show live. Like, we do it in our car when we're driving around, and we do it when we have time. There's comments, and I'm not going to consider them trolls. I'm not going to call them out by name, saying you must not have a life if you watch live. Now, they aren't getting me amped up because they don't know my life. And it's like, it's a great life. And I'm actually more busy than, it's incredible. So here's what I want to say to that, though. Here's what I want to say to that, because I actually see their perspective. I'm guessing that they're prioritizing watching every single shot and not missing one little detail. Now, you might think, well, Matt, don't you want to do that? Yes, but I can generally look at stats and say, oh, it looks interesting. I can go find that and watch how it played out, maybe post after. But I want to consume the moment live, like what's important. And so at World Championships, if I wasn't able to watch every round, I may or may not have went back. It depends if there was something compelling I want to go back and check. But I can assure you this. If I didn't sit down for 8 hours on the final day, I was going to catch the last hour. I'm going to prioritize the last hour live because that is the last quarter of the Super Bowl. That is when it's all going down. I can at least take that in live, and then I can go back and post. Now, everybody has different feelings about how they want to consume it, but live was so good that I would take a 3 or 4 hour afternoon during the final round to sit down and watch the whole thing. Just like people do for the NFL Super Bowl or anything else, it happens. Actually, weekly games, baseball, everybody. It's a thing. I understand it's not for everybody. Nick, if you were to consume live, do you catch the whole thing, or are you okay just catching a portion of it live because that's what matters to you?
No, I mean, for the most part, I've been playing so many tournaments this year that majority of the time that I'm watching the live coverage is as I'm driving home and I have it playing through my car. And I'm mostly listening to it, but I'm kind of like catching a few shots here and there, maybe at the red lights or stuff like that. But yeah, same thing though. If I have the time to actually be able to sit down and enjoy live disc golf, I love watching disc golf, and I love watching friends of mine compete at a high level. And so I thoroughly enjoy sitting down and trying to watch shot by shot. I mean, granted, I'm going to miss a few shots, whether I'm, checking Facebook or checking Instagram, something like that. But for the most part, I have no issue spending my Saturday or Sunday sitting down for 4 hours watching live disc golf. To me, that's honestly, there's plenty of other things in the world that I would love to do as well. But while the disc golf season's going, I do enjoy watching live disc golf.
And for what it's worth, sit around. I can actually work on my computer and have live going. So like I can actually consume it like while I'm working. We don't all have jobs like that. I'm not suggesting that.
Yeah. Even if I can't watch it, I'm checking scores religiously. Like, I mean, I've never been one of those people to where like movies are different, but like with sports, if spoilers aren't really a thing when it comes to disc golf and sports in general, because you can watch it live. Like you can go online and check out the score on the ESPN app or the UDisc app or the PDJ live scoring app, any one of those. And so for me personally, like I'm looking at the score. If I'm not watching the event, I'm looking to see how the players are doing at the event.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say this as I wrap up. I did catch the moment when and I did go check this out, when Jomez released the final round. I wanted to see how it went down on Jomez production because there's no doubt about it. It looks awesome. Incredible. I'm not knocking it. It's incredible. They do a fantastic job. I support them as well. But there's nothing quite like knowing that they already knew what happened and they're all acting so surprised. So like,
exactly,
it's not the live moment. They do a good job at it, but it's just not the same. And Nick, you can't see on this side, but I do want to give a shout out. We don't do this often, but we did have a super chat come in from over in Europe. I believe actually Norway, Bjorn Christopher Nordness. I'm giving him a full shout out here. He says post-produced is always going to be good with him in regards of time because of the time difference. Imagine trying to watch live. It's like 2 a.m. and like, no, it's not happening.
I don't think I'd ever say get rid of post-production completely. I do enjoy what the post-production people do. They do incredible things for our sport. And it is nice if I really do want to sit down and watch live disc or post-production disc golf that I can go on and watch a front nine and back nine of the event. It really is an awesome thing when most of the sports you're literally only watching the highlights. So it is cool to see shot by shot what's going down. But I think a main focus of ours nowadays should be how do we make live disc golf the best kind of disc golf to watch?
Yeah, I agree. And as we move here into the James Conrad interview, I do want to apologize for the clearing of my throat. It is something that I have dealt with my whole life, and it is flaring up right now. So I'm going to deal with that. As we get into the James Conrad interview, I do want to shout out, Nick was not able to make this interview. We had to schedule it around James's schedule. We made it work. You guys are going to enjoy this. Some really interesting insights. Let's take it away. No further ado, James Conrad, everybody. All right, everybody. Welcome to the show, James Conrad. Where are we calling you from?
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me on. I'm actually up in Minnesota right now, Minneapolis area. I'll be playing at the Majestic this weekend. I love BRP, so I'm looking forward to it. Taking a pretty easy week, though, honestly. Not getting in a ton of practice or anything. Just trying to have fun up here.
Awesome. What's the weather like up there in Minnesota right now? I know like all over the country there's like heat records and Utah was hot. What's Minnesota like?
I didn't see the actual temperature, but it was warm. It wasn't as hot as it was out in Utah, but it was the first humidity I felt in a while. It was definitely a little sweaty out there, but it felt great.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, heat. We play a game on the show sometimes called like which would you rather, like snow, rain or really windy conditions. Heat we've never put on the list, but I can imagine really hot temperatures don't make for a good time. So good job out there, Utah. Speaking of Utah and world championships, congratulations. Thank you. Yeah, totally cool. Can I ask, leading into Worlds, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable were you with your discs and your game going into Worlds?
I feel like I was definitely up there. Maybe saying 10 out of 10 is pretty extreme, but I'd say I was at least a 9. I got to Utah pretty early. I think I was there about the 8th of June, so 12, 13 days, 14 days before World started, and that gave me plenty of time to get used to the weather out there, like the heat, and it gave me plenty of time to get used to the altitude. I actually kind of like how my discs fly just in general at a little higher elevation. I feel like I don't have to worry about overturning things. But yeah, definitely something that takes a little getting used to. And then my putt doesn't seem to be too much affected by the elevation. I was able to just kind of hit them hard and trust that they'd go in.
Yeah, and I've never performed in a professional world championship. I had an opportunity in 2011 to play Am Worlds, and that was pretty cool for me. Going into pro world, and by the way, I didn't feel like I had the chance to win it. I have to believe at your skill, your quality, the length of time you've played in disc golf, you had a feeling going into the world championships, and you probably do most years. Was there something different this year where you were like, this is my year? Did you have any different feelings going into this Worlds than previous Worlds?
It's hard for me to remember. It'd been about 2 years since we actually played a Worlds, but I definitely felt confident. I was happy with where my game was. I've had some good performances through May and June, a couple that were a little bit off, but even my off tournaments or off rounds, it felt like I was pretty much doing everything right. I just wasn't maybe quite scoring as well as some of the people out there, just a little mistake here that cost me double or that kind of thing. So overall, my game was feeling great going in, and I feel like especially getting to Utah as early as I did, I felt comfortable with the environment. I felt really comfortable on the courses. I definitely like my chances.
Yeah, and like I said, you have to believe, I don't want to classify all of the top 20 as the top 20, but you have to believe everyone there going in is thinking, I've got a chance. And maybe most of the, top 50 even, but it's exciting to hear how strong you are feeling going into that. I say this from my perspective, and I think probably a lot of our viewers and listeners probably feel similarly. I'll say it, you're an interesting guy, and that is compelling to watch. Okay. And what I mean by that is you have some players who just are very, forward with their emotions and large, right? And then you have some
Right.
who are quieter. And honestly, I put you in the same emotional strength as like a Paul Macbeth. I do. I see like you guys are very composed. You tend to be on the quieter side, and maybe there's something. Calvin Heimberg. We can put you.
Okay, yeah.
You're in good company. You're in good company, and you were trading blow for blow throughout the whole final round. A lot of birdies going down. You're keeping up. You go into the last hole. You drive on 18. I'm just ramping it up here at the very end, and you were frustrated off the tee pad. Do you feel like, first of all, this is a two-part question. Do you feel like it takes luck to get through those trees off of hole 18's drive? And then generally, after your frustration with that drive, what were you saying to yourself?
To answer the first part, I don't think that tee shot requires luck. I think my specific throw could have used some luck to get through. It didn't get through, but I missed the big gap on the hole. I feel like I wouldn't even say it was particularly lucky that it didn't kick OB, but it was a little ways from the OB lines. But yeah, luck is a weird expression in disc golf. You know, there's constantly like things that could have gone a little bit differently this way or a little bit differently that way. And I think over the course of an entire event, especially one as long as Worlds, that, you know, it's mostly going to balance out. Like some people may have a luckier event or not, but you could throw a perfect tee shot on 18 and get an unlucky skip and go OB. You know, there's always a bit of give and take there. I appreciate what you're saying, that you feel I'm very like composed, or I don't let the emotions get the best of me on the course. I think everyone that plays disc golf definitely feels frustration at times, and I'm no different. I may not shout out loud, but I may mutter something to myself under my breath as I'm putting my disc away, or like I definitely feel like I get angry sometimes or frustrated, but I try to let those moments like maybe give myself 5 seconds to feel that way, and then try to push it away and try to focus more forward, not so much on what just happened or what went wrong or anything like that. And it's nice to hear that from an outside perspective. You know, you don't see some of these little mental battles that go on. I'm not sure if I quite got to the second part of that question. Oh, you're asking what I was frustrated about after my tee shot on 18?
Obviously hitting a tree, but I think maybe there's something beyond that. I'm just curious if we can have insight to what that was.
Yeah, I think I put really, really high expectations on myself at that point. So I was a bit disappointed that I did not execute the tee shot as well as I wanted. I have to try really, really hard to throw a shot, especially in a moment like that. And then part of that is like believing in yourself and expecting yourself to do it right. And then to not do it right hurts more. You know, if I was more nonchalant and just like, oh yeah, I'm going to try to do this, and I made a mistake, it wouldn't feel as bad. It wouldn't feel as frustrating. So to try as hard as you can on something and then make a mistake, I feel like is where that frustration is really rooted. But beyond that, I was definitely a bit frustrated about the tee pad on hole 18. There's a pretty large handful of the holes have tee pads that I was not crazy about, whether they're a bit elevated like on hole 18, and even the way that hole, the way the gap is shaped and the way the tee pad are shaped just don't quite work in my mind. Like if that was a flat tee pad, I think I would have started not only about like 10 feet farther away from the front, but I also would have started probably about 10 to 15 feet to the right of where I was forced to start. So I think I had a moment where I was feeling frustrated that my chances at a World's title may have come down to a tee pad that I wasn't crazy about, but I gave myself a few seconds to feel that way and then tried to forget about it and go see how my lie looked.
Yeah, and there's something to be learned from our perspective watching you, and I hope people hearing this, newer players and those who are striving to become better, take a little bit, process it, and then move on from it, because that's all you can do. But Yeah, tee pads. There was interesting conversations on that, but as you mentioned as well, just the general throwing your disc not the way you wanted it, and you have such a high expectation for yourself. Let's ramp through your approach shot. Do you feel like on your approach shot you threw it a little softer than you wanted to? This is all in hindsight. Did it come out of your hand? Did you say that's a perfect place where I wanted to put it? Or how'd you feel about your approach?
Referring to my second shot?
Yeah, sorry, not your approach, your pitch out, yeah, from near the water.
Okay. It's a quite small landing zone, like even that layup, especially when you're not shooting down the lane, when you're shooting like towards the OB, it's a pretty tiny landing zone, and really my only objective on that throw was to not throw it out of bounds. You know, if I throw my second out of bounds, I have 0% chance of making a 3. If I throw my shot inbounds and hopefully at least have a decent look at the basket, I have a chance at 3. So I was happy with my shot. I had to throw through a little gap, and I had a standstill stance, and which is pretty clearly not my favorite kind of stance. But yeah, I didn't want to push that OB line too much. So I was happy with where it landed.
Are you generally sick yet of people asking you about how this hole played out, or are you still ready for more? Because I got a few more questions.
I can handle a few more.
Okay, awesome. And actually, this is just me speculating, and I know people didn't come to hear my opinion. They came to hear yours. But that's kind of what it played out in my head. I said, you'd rather a chance than push it too far. And that's exactly what you just relayed out. Now, leading to that, your mindset then was, tell me, was your mindset then, I have to get a 3. I have to get a 3. Or were you at all in your mind saying, well, at least a 4 and maybe something goes wrong for Paul? Like, what was your mindset?
It's kind of hard to put it directly in words. You know, there's an element of match play to it when it comes down to 2 people at the end. So, yeah, so I'd say I felt like I needed a 3 if I wanted a chance. You know, I wasn't resigned to like playing for second. I knew I had at least a few strokes to spare on second, so I wasn't too worried about like worst case at that point. And yeah, I had watched the FPO battle earlier in the day, and obviously Kat threw an amazing shot, and that put some pressure on Paige, and then Paige wasn't quite able to execute down the stretch. And so in the back of my mind, I thought there was a possibility, you know, that Paul could make an unforced error, if you will, and that maybe, that maybe a 4 would be good enough to tie. But I felt that to be extremely unlikely, and I felt like the only way I had a chance was to pitch out and then throw it in.
So it's interesting doing these interviews following such a big media release, meaning like it's going to be, if not already, the most viewed disc golf shot ever, which, by the way, congratulations for that. So
thank you.
Leading to that point then, so we've got your mental game, you're getting there, you know you have to give yourself a shot, you don't want to count on Paul messing up, you saw it happen earlier with the FPO, which that's a whole nother story. And so this question is going to sound pretty crazy after everything I just heard you say. It's going to sound crazy to ask this. But were you literally trying and focusing on throwing the disc in the basket? Like, I have to do this, and that's literally my focus right now is that basket, just like a large putt. Like, that's all you're thinking about. You're not thinking about in a situation like, oh, there's water beyond or whatever. Like, you're like, I just have to hit it. Were you thinking that from 247 feet out, or were you thinking, give it a chance, I'm just going to generally throw it there? You know what I mean? I guess I'm trying to say, was that your focus point? Like, I have to throw it in. Here we go.
Yeah, it absolutely was. I think I was probably focusing on that even before I actually approached my lie. You know, after my layup shot, I was just, you know, trying to visualize and trying to believe that I could make my next shot. And it still feels slightly unreal that, you know, that it played out like it did, that I was able to make that shot. It's pretty rare to, like, it's one thing to try to ace, but I've almost never felt it where it's like, okay, I have to ace this, or I have to throw this in if I want a chance. And for it just to play out that way, and then to aim at it and picture the whole flight in my head and pick my starting point, pick how I wanted to throw it and let it go, and just to watch it happen just how I wanted was really special, really amazing.
I can't tell a lie. I got goosebumps and the shivers, just like, is it that epic to you even in this moment? I know it happened to you and you've thought about it and you're the person who did it. Is it still epic, like you just said? Like, I did what I had to do. Like, you still feeling it?
Yeah, definitely. It's an unusual feeling, it's not normal. It's like, yeah, it's hard to explain, but it feels really nice. It's it almost feels a little bit lucky, but like I said earlier, luck's a weird word. Like, it's not a high percentage shot, but for it to come down to that shot and for me to be able to make it, it's just amazing. Felt like it was just my day, Golf is funny like that.
Yeah. On our previous show, so we did a show right after Worlds, and Nick and I are talking through it, and I think the word luck came up, fluke came up, miracle came up, skillful shot came up. We didn't know exactly how to describe it, but I think it could be a mixture of everything. But the fact of the matter is, you had to do it, you had the skill to do it, and you executed it, and it happened. Can I ask this question? Could you do it? Could you do it again if you had to? And I'm not saying, give 100 shots. I'm saying, let's go back, another world championship. You think it would happen again, or is this a once in a lifetime?
It's hard to say. I've tried to think about it in the terms of, like, if I had a stack of envies and was standing in that spot, like, how many could I make out of 20 or 50? And yeah, I feel like I could make one or a couple, maybe 1 out of 20 or 1 or 2 out of 50, but it's impossible to replicate, like, the outside of just me, just having that much focus on me and that many people, like, hoping that I could make that shot and being like, wow, he has to make this, and if anyone could do it, maybe James could, and those kind of things. That, like, I feel like the energy from that many people watching and that many people's focus, like, could kind of add to my own focus in the moment. And so it's hard to say if that is possible to replicate.
I think it's impossible to say. I don't think you can replicate it. There might be another shot, another time, another opportunity to do something special, but that moment, I think, is standalone by itself forever. So good job there, of course.
Thank you.
Can I ask, moving a little bit away from maybe the world championship specifically, or that shot, is where does your determination and your don't give up attitude, because that, you didn't count yourself out, and that's impressive. I can see others hanging their head possibly in that situation. Where do you get that attitude from? Determination and don't give up.
That's a tough one. I think it may just come from my love of competition. I like games. I like competitions, obviously sports, and I feel like part of being a good sport is to, keep trying, like, even if it's a losing battle, not just to give up, and to give it everything you have. And my battle out there on Saturday wasn't a losing battle. It may have looked grim for a moment, but even to give it everything I have and come up one stroke short of Paul, I would have been pretty honored with that result too. And so, yeah, just wanted to do as well as I could.
Yeah, and I'm hoping as a world champion, you get a lot of opportunities to speak. Even now, we're doing interviews here and you're getting other opportunities. I worked a lot with juniors for quite a few years in disc golf, and that message you just said, like, we need to clip it out and let all the juniors, we need all the juniors to listen to that. Parents, show this to your kids. You
Nice.
you go your hardest. You come up one stroke short. I heard James just say, it would have been an honor. Like, you do your best, you give it all, don't give up, and you never know what's going to happen. That's excellent. Can I ask, what does it mean to win a world championship in the fashion that you did? against arguably the most clutch player of all time, Paul McBeth. Like, do those things correlate at all to you to ramp the excitement up even more?
Yeah, it definitely does. I think it makes me feel, excuse me, it makes me feel a little bit more proud of winning, you know, to have it come right down to the end like that. And to, like you said, like you were just saying, of not giving up and not just accepted defeat, and to continue trying, and then to make a spectacular shot is, you know, it makes it so much more memorable for everyone watching, and more memorable for me. I mean, not like it would be forgettable to win a Worlds in any fashion, but yeah, just to feel that much energy from that many people at once was just so spectacular. Like, I think even more than the win, I'll remember just the feeling of that many people, like, just kind of going wild, you know, just being that excited. That was incredibly special.
There's the goosebumps again. Like, I have to say, collectively, the live disc golf media, shout out to the Disc Golf Network. This is a large turning point for the sport, where for the first time that I can remember, and I don't know, maybe you have a different thought here, everybody that was watching live, which was 37,000 people plus everybody who was there, shared a collective moment, like, at the same time. And it's just mind blowing. And you were the focus, and your shot flying through the air, as you've said. I think, how did you summarize it? I think in an Instagram post, you said it was the collective mindset. Do you want to just break that just really quickly? What did you say there, if you remember?
I can't remember exactly what I said, but I phrased that I was able to draw on, like, the focus and the hopes and, like, the belief of everyone there present watching to really draw my focus in to, like, a maximum level. I think is something along the lines of what I said. And I thought my good friend Nate Perkins said it well too. He kind of compared it to, like, a moment of collective consciousness where, you know, every person there pretty much forgot about their self, and they were just entirely in the moment, and they were, just, like, experiencing like that moment of apprehension, or that moment of suspense, like, as I was lining it up and everything got so quiet, and then as I let it fly, you know, it's still just that was kind of coming to a peak, and then the fact that I was able to make it, just everyone just boom, like, exploded. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's actually kind of mind-blowing, warping, whatever you want to say. You're sharing a moment in sports history that actually some are arguing to be the greatest, most clutch play in all sports. Does that overwhelm you at all?
Yeah, it does. It almost leaves me speechless. You know, it's like, so many people have been playing sports for so long, and to be even in that conversation, even if it, you know, in some people's mind isn't, or in other people's mind it is, just to have been able to, you know, create such a magical moment is really special.
Yeah. All right. So has that shot ensured that you will never incorporate a forehand into your game? Or maybe you, like, is that, like, secured it, sealed the deal? You're like, I don't need it.
Even before it, I didn't really feel like I needed it. You know, I'm happy to try to throw one on a scramble shot, and I just love the turnover so much more than I love the hyzer shot. And most of the time when people bring out the forehand, it's so that they can throw a hyzer, and to me the turnover is just so much more fun to throw. And I feel like it's got a little, it might be a little easier to make mistakes, but it's a little bit more precise when you're dialed in with it. You know, you can get the disc to land exactly how you want it, or to shape a little bit differently. But I'd say the only time I really miss or wish that I had, like, a good power forehand is when the wind is really picking up. Like, if there's a strong, like, headwind, or especially right to left wind, that's when, like, a backhand left to right shot gets really difficult. And when a forehand hyzer can just kind of fight and eat up that wind and hold pretty straight, I'd say that's the only time I feel like I might maybe at a disadvantage without throwing that power forehand.
Yeah, and you're the one who can speak about it. I just have to sit here and nod my head. Like, I have nothing to say to that. Like, you're not wrong, though. I agree 1,000,000%. It is a much more fun shot. It's more beautiful to watch as well. So is disc golf what you're going to be doing until you retire? Have you thought about that? Like, is disc golf your life from here on until you're done?
Yeah, I think it is. We'll see. As far as competing goes, I think, I'm not sick of it at all yet, and I think I can definitely compete for another, at least another 10 years if I feel the desire to keep on tour and to keep, putting all my focus towards this. But even if that starts to shift, I certainly imagine that it will still be disc golf related, whether that's owning a course like a disc golf country club kind of thing, or probably not event management, but something to do with disc golf events. I think could be an interesting branch to take off of competing, and I think there'll be pretty much whatever doors open that I'd like to go through to continue basing my life around disc golf. I just love it, so I don't see myself doing anything else.
That's awesome. You talked about the country club, and my brain immediately went to like an alliteration. I'm like, Conrad's Country Club. We'll just call it the 3 C's. That's excellent. I don't know you very well. I've seen you around. You came up, you won at the MVP Open in Leicester. Maple Hill is my home course.
Right.
I'm looking forward to you coming back and trying again. Before we move totally off, we're very close to wrapping up here. There's a story in the Bible about a guy who had superhuman strength in connection with his long hair. His name was Samson. When someone tricked him and his hair was cut, he lost his strength. Is there any connection to your long hair in that shot going in?
Oh, I don't think so, but that's a funny little story. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't really have a good reason why I like to keep my hair long, but since I stopped cutting it when I was about 18, I haven't really looked back. I just enjoy it.
Yeah, I was like, do you like how creative I got there? All right. I've generally come to the end of my disc golf questions, but I think it'd be remiss not to talk just a little bit about juggling and unicycling. I've heard a little bit about it. Can I ask, how many objects can you juggle at one time?
I've got a pretty good 5-ball cascade. I could get 3 going in one hand, but a 6-ball is kind of just doing 3 balls in each hand. It's not really a crossing pattern. I think I could probably qualify a 6-ball, which is like doing 12 catches basically, but I definitely can't roll with it like I can with the 5-ball cascade.
For those of you who are listening, or post, or you're watching live or whatever it is, he's using words like cascade. Like, this guy's a juggler. Like, he knows the terminology. So my brother and I, we enjoyed juggling growing up as well, and we enjoyed, and I'm sure you've done it, juggling back and forth with somebody, even if it's just a simple definitely 5-ball or something. And so, juggling, is that something you've done for a long time since you were a kid, or when did you pick up juggling?
Yeah, I definitely learned as a kid, and I feel like rather than just like I know how to juggle, I think when I started to actually kind of get into juggling was in high school, and that's when I started putting in some good amount of hours practicing. Even if I was just like watching TV, but standing behind the couch and kind of practicing juggling instead of just sitting on the couch and watching TV, just like practicing like that. I was never like dedicated to it. Like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and practice my juggling, nothing like that. But and it's kind of a cyclical thing. Like you'll pick them up and be like, oh yeah, this is fun. I remember why I used to do this, and maybe have a month or 2 months where you're pretty diligent with practice, but then it might be 4 or 6 months where you barely touch them. And I'm kind of in one of those 4 to 6 months where haven't really touched them much right now, but I'm sure before long I'll get back in the swing of it and play with them more.
Isn't that interesting how things work? everybody has those things in their life where, like you said, cyclical, like the idea of like, you really enjoy it. It takes a break. It comes back and you remember how much you loved it. That's excellent.
Yeah.
So you haven't done it in a while, but I think also you've unicycled, if that's the right way to say that. You can ride a unicycle or you unicycle. I don't know. How many objects can you juggle while you ride the unicycle?
I can definitely do 3. I haven't tried too many more than that. I haven't gone on a unicycle often at all in the last like 10 years or so. It was another thing that I got into in high school and through college. Like through my first couple of years at college, I did quite a bit of unicycling, but since then that one hasn't really cycled back around as often. I think I might be able to get
pun,
5
right?
balls going.
No pun.
What's that?
That one
No
hasn't
pun.
cycled.
Yeah,
that hasn't cycled
back around. That hasn't unicycled back around.
So what's the?
I may be able to get 5 going on the unicycle if I tried for a week, maybe. I don't know.
That's pretty good, James. I never put in as much effort as you have. I can definitely do 3. You know, and what's it called, James? When you do their outside juggle, so that you can juggle inside 3, then you can juggle out the. Is there a name for that?
Yeah, that would be a reverse cascade.
Ooh, you're making me excited. I can do a reverse cascade with 3 balls. And then 4 is just, I never put in the time. Like you said, it's 2 in each hand. And I just kind of was like, yeah.
Right.
But what's the craziest object you've juggled? Clubs, knives, like what do you do? Bowling balls? I don't even know. What's the craziest thing?
I've juggled torches a couple times. Definitely the most like dangerous or craziest, but that fuel doesn't really burn too hot, so it's not as dangerous as it looks. But I never wanted to catch like my hair or beard or anything on fire. I think that would be pretty bad. So I got rid of those. Felt like it didn't need to be something I practiced.
It would be bad. It'd be very exciting to watch until you realized it wasn't on purpose. Yeah. So really, I mean, I think we've made it to the end. Is there anything we missed that you felt is relevant to like what's going on in your life right now that like people would want to hear about? We've got a large audience who would be interested if you have anything. If not, that's fine too.
Just wanted to give a shout out to everyone out there that's been cheering for me and reaching out on social media and everything. I'm sure I haven't gotten back to most of you. It's been a little bit overwhelming, but it's just a really nice feeling to feel so much love from all y'all. So thanks to each and every one of you, and thanks to everyone that's bought some JC merch. I think our supplies might be getting a little low, but that means a lot of y'all have been buying them, so thanks to that as well.
And I guess I thought up one more. You just mentioned your brand there, JC. First of all, you have a lot of interesting nicknames coming out. Besides nicknames for yourself, you don't usually pick them. Someone picks them for you. But how about the same thing for, we'll call it the shot? Like, is there a favorite name for that you've heard yet that you kind of like and you say, yeah, that works?
I think I like just the shot. I'm not super crazy about like the holy shot direction some people have been going with it. I kind of get why people's minds went that direction, but not something I'm probably going to promote myself. I saw some people mention like Conrad Corner just to kind of call the end of the course that, and that one was pretty sweet, I thought.
Yeah, I loved that idea as well. Placing a marker or something, let people throw the shot. I know it's a temporary course, but still it could be a moment and a time and place to try to check that out. That's excellent. Well, James, I appreciate so much the time that you've given to us. You are incredibly, I'm sure, busy. You're lining up, ESPN I'm sure all these, they're coming for you. But with all that being said, thank you again for your time and have a great evening.
Thanks, Matt. See ya.
All right, man. Bye. All right, everybody. That was an awesome interview. Nick, because you were not there for the interview, go ahead and give me your general reaction to that. There was a lot in there. Did anything stand out to you specifically? What do you think?
Yeah, obviously I was not there at the interview. So I wanted to take some notes while you were actually giving him all the questions. So I wrote some down as we were interviewing, or as you were interviewing him.
Oh.
One of the things that I really,
Sorry to interrupt you real quick.
Yep.
Real quick as you get into that. Everybody do not leave. Exclusive announcement right now. We just lined up Paige Pierce. She will be on the show soon. I'll say it that way. All right, Nick. So go share it out there, everybody. Let people know Paige Pierce is coming on to talk about her performance at Worlds. All right, Nick, what did you think about this interview?
I really liked it. It was awesome to listen to. I'm going to look down actually at the notes that I made right now. But one of the things about James Conrad that really actually has always stood out to me is that he keeps his emotions in check. He's got that little Conrad, what do you call it? Kind of like the way he jumps up and down. I can't think of the word right now. Like prances around kind of thing. He's got that like Conrad prance whenever he makes a big jump putt or anything like that. And he's always kind of like what seems like a happy guy. And same thing, like he didn't really let his frustration show on that tee shot going into hole 18. And especially he never let it get away from his head that, he could still win the world championships. Even though he hit that tree, he can still win. And I think that's one incredible way to actually keep your emotions in check. One big thing that I listened to during the interview was his frustration about the tee pads. I think that's, even now we're talking about it from the world champion himself. There were frustrations about the actual tee pads at both courses, specifically like I wasn't designed for.
Hold on one second, Nick.
Yep.
Hold on one second here. All right. So I told everybody that we're going to be bringing Paige Pierce into the show, and this is an absolutely live show. And what's happening is I'm hearing audio in the background from an airport where Paige is calling us from, and it's actually cutting out your audio a little bit, Nick. So let me do a few things here because what you were saying was interesting. Let me change out a few things. This is all live, everybody. And all right, I think we can probably hear you again, Nick, if you go for it.
Okay, cool. All right, I'll try to finish it up quick and we can get.
No, you're
Paige
good.
going
You're good.
on.
You're good.
All right. So obviously he knew in his mindset he had to throw it in. So that was pretty cool. It was cool to see him kind of like will that final shot of just in the sense of, like he was saying, it's hard to get an ace, and at this moment, getting that kind of like fairway ace like he did, just being able to hit that shot when he did it was just absolutely insane. I really liked actually how long it took him to answer your questions, Matt. Like he really had to think about the answers, and I thought that was pretty genuine. Of like he didn't want to say not necessarily the wrong thing, but he really wanted to make sure that he dissected the question and then went and answered it. I thought that was pretty cool on his part. It definitely, he had said it had that extra energy winning against Paul, but especially being in front of all those people and just everyone was kind of just in the moment, watching that shot, and everyone was just present at that moment. And then, all the different kind of like shot names, nicknames, and everything like that. But I did like how we talked about, I should say you and other people have said, kind of building a tee pad in that spot, calling it Conrad's Corner. I thought that was actually really, really cool. But for the most part, incredible interview, incredibly down-to-earth guy. And I like how he sees his future in disc golf, whether it's being a player for the next 10 years or eventually owning kind of like a country club style disc golf course. And what's funny enough is actually just played a tournament at his dad's home course. I would say more than likely the course that James grew up playing. So definitely a very, very fun interview to listen to.
Yeah, totally enjoyable. James Conrad stood out for a lot of reasons in that interview. And it was a true honor to be able to interview him after his performance at Worlds, the way that he performed. It's interesting trying to handpick questions out to ask somebody in these situations. It's not like I'm a professional who's trained in this, and I've worked really hard to be able to hopefully provide you guys entertainment. And with all of that being said, we are at this point in the show where we were able to line up. Yes, we were able to line up. Her name is Paige Pierce. Let's go ahead and bring her in the show. Welcome to the show, Paige. This is your second time on our show. How are you doing?
Yeah, second time in very recent weeks. So thanks for having me back.
It seems like very recent weeks, and time does fly, but I just looked and it says last time we Skyped was 2 months ago. Does that seem right?
Oh, really?
U.S. Women's.
No.
Time does fly. Time definitely
U.S.
flies.
Women's. When was U.S. Women's?
Yeah, about 2 months ago, I guess.
All right, good. It does fly, but
That's
it feels like much sooner, Paige. We're glad to have you back on. Thank you so much for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, she's flying and traveling the world. She gets off her flight, says, I can do it. She's being chauffeured. She's not driving right now. She's not driving. So
Nope. We got Bob. Bob will pick me up from the airport.
What up, Bob?
all right, Bob Julio, Discraft, everybody. So let's get right into it. We don't want to waste your time, but we also appreciate it. And we want to ask some questions. You're so generous to come on here. Let's jump right to the world's performance. Going into the event, you demonstrated great confidence and a true competitor spirit. Have you thought about how did going into this world championship differ for you from other world championships that you've gone into? Was there different feeling? For instance, the whole topic of 6-time, or their media is much bigger, or your life, you've talked about mental struggles this year. Was there anything different going into this world than others?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, just the pure, like internal stressor of trying to accomplish one of my longest term goals. Ever since I won my 3rd world title, 4th world title, I knew that number 6 was going to be a big one for me to even have an opportunity to be on that stage and to try to come out with that. So, that was something that I've been, looking forward to and working forward to for the last few years. So to finally be on that stage where it was an opportunity that could have come true, was definitely something that was a bigger pressure. And, I think Bob can be a testament to this, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, but funny that you're here. It's something where I feel like I've lined myself up with companies that don't really care about my performance at this point. So it was a relief to not have the external pressure of like what my sponsors want for me, what my parents want for me, what the fans want. It was mostly just on me. And in previous years, I had felt those external pressures of like, okay, I'm just getting in with Discraft, or I'm just switching sponsors. Stuff like that, or just lots of external things come in. So I think that this year was a lot of that was gone, and it was just really me and what I wanted and what my long-term goals were, and they were right there ready for the taking.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, it seemed like this year was bigger for everybody. And so I just wanted to get your insight on that. If you had to grade your performance in a vacuum, this is in a vacuum though, like I'm not talking about against other competitors out there. Okay. So
yeah.
just generally your performance, how would you grade it? How would you grade it yourself?
Starting off the first 2 rounds, shooting 1,000 rated the first 2 rounds, I would have given myself, what are we saying? Like 0 to 100?
Sure. 0 to 100.
I would say the first 2 rounds, I was feeling like a 95 to 99. And then, that 3rd round coming out at the fort, I felt, regardless of what my score was, comparatively to the field, I know that after that round, I was still tied for first, but when I went home that night, it wasn't my disappointments, my frustrations, none of that was towards where I stood in the competition. It was towards my performance. And that round 3, I would have given myself probably about a 50, something like that. I believe it was a 945 rated round, and I followed that up with round 5, the final round, another round well under my rating. And so to win a major championship, to win the world championship, it was not acceptable to shoot 2 rounds under 950. So 3 very solid rounds, and I kept myself in contention the entire time. But 2 subpar rounds. So overall, I would say, I don't know, 80, something like that, 70.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely throughout the whole event, just kind of like seeing the ups and downs of it. This is kind of the tough part as an interviewer, and having to ask kind of like the more personal and questions that no one wants to ask, but everyone wants to hear the answer to, obviously. So you're one of the best competitors in the sport, and you've had a week to kind of reflect on how everything happened. Can you walk us through hole 18, just from the tee shot to the final putt out? Can you walk us through your mindset of what was going on in that moment?
In which moment?
Of just like the hole itself, like after your drive, after Katrina's upshot, after your upshot. Yeah, hole 18.
Okay.
Just yeah.
So hole 18, I you know, just came off.
Okay. Hold tight for just a second. Hold tight. I hate to interrupt like that, but we want to hear this. We want to hear this answer.
Okay.
We want to hear this answer. So hold on. It's catching up. It's a bad service area, but we want to catch what Paige is saying here. She's going to walk us through hole 18. It looks like it may have cleaned up for her. So Paige, sorry to interrupt, but people weren't hearing it. Go ahead.
No worries. How about now?
We're good.
Yep, we think you're good now.
Okay. Yeah, so coming off hole 17, I had a really bad drive, but I was able to clean up my upshot and get myself in position to save par. And then again, a bad upshot, so I ended up carting the bogey on that. And, I was pretty sad, but I knew that I still had one stroke of an advantage going into 18. I also knew that this meant Katrina would have the box and she would tee first. So I could kind of get to see what she was going to do on the hole. So seeing her drive first go left, I knew that was a sweet spot. I played the Utah Open with her, and I had played the other 2 rounds at the fort with her, so I knew that's exactly where she wanted to be, and that she was successful in going for the green from there. So I knew that was more than likely going to be her approach on this final round as well. But I knew that if I put myself a little bit farther and a little bit more right, then she would have to throw before me. And that is something that I felt was very necessary. I absolutely had to make sure that I was farther than her down the fairway. In doing so, then I could see if she went OB or not and decide if I needed to play safe, or if she did park it, maybe I needed to go for it. So anyway, getting up there, I got my undertaker exactly where I wanted it. I was about 80 feet closer to the basket than she was. And anyway, I got to see her line up her shot. I walked over to the left so I could see exactly, not just what the spotter would wave, if it would be green or red, but exactly where her disc would land, so that I would know what type of putt she had. Did she have a 10-footer, a 40-footer, a 60-footer? And she threw that F7. I knew as soon as she grabbed it, I knew she was going for the green. And she got it to hold over, and it started, 8 to 20% was fairly safe. So, I'm glad that I saw that it was a tester putt, because that kind of made my decision for me. I know that Katrina is very capable of making 30-footers, but to do so with 1,400 people standing there, to do so to force a playoff, I knew that was going to be a lot more difficult and a lot more pressure. So I told myself, it's okay if you go into a playoff, but you don't want to lose this right now. And I told myself, if I did go, Bueno could have lost it right there. But got up there, even if she did make it, we would still go into a playoff. And that's what I felt I was the most comfortable with in that moment. I guess it's get ahead of myself. But yeah, so I wanted, and from there was a dead straight fierce shot, about 200. But again, that crowd of 1,400 people, the most cameras we've ever had on us, probably my most pressure-filled shot that I've ever thrown in my entire life. I failed. I early released it. I was scared of going OB deep. I was scared of grip blocking it. And so instead of thinking about the actual basket and where I wanted it to land, I was thinking about what could go wrong. And unfortunately, I let it go early. But I feel proud of myself that even in that moment, I not succumb to that pressure and that that heartbreak yet. I knew that I still had a chance if I would make my putt from about, the spotter gave me a mark about 50 feet short of the basket, maybe 60 feet. And I knew that if I would make that putt, I would put the pressure on her, and I would make her have to make her 30-footer to force a playoff. So I remember walking up to that putt, even though I was sad, I saw the red flag. I remember telling myself, no matter what, you can't feel anything. Do not feel any emotion until you've committed to this putt and thrown this putt, because it's not over yet. And as soon as that putt left my hand, I knew I missed a little high right. In that moment, I remember thinking, like, actually not many thoughts, just a complete loss of my breath, and just, it was over. And I remember I fell to the ground, and I remember just telling myself, like, you gave it a chance, you can be proud of that. You didn't leave it low. You gave it everything you had. You missed it high, But yeah, I think the thing I'm most sad about that last hole is that I didn't make her make the putt. If for your competitor to be able to lay up for a win, it's a really heartbreaking feeling. And, I'm sure I know that feeling from her side of things, like how relieved she must have been to be like, oh, I don't have to make this. Like, I just won it. So, I can feel the emotion both ways, and I could see all the emotion in the crowd. So, in hindsight, it's something where I've kind of come to terms with it now. There's nothing I can do at this point but to continue putting myself in those high pressure situations and continue to test my abilities under pressure. But I think even to this moment, I think I did make the right decision in laying up. But I have gone to bed a few nights since then wondering if I should have gone for the green. But I think I know that in my heart, deep down, I did make the correct decision. I just wasn't able to execute.
Yeah, that is a collective moment, and there's lots of moments at Worlds, and I'm sure it's not one that you want to have as one of your moments, but everybody, for what it's worth, viewing this moment, I think there's people compelled to somehow feel even the feelings you were feeling. And that has to be truly unique to be in your position to know all of these. And you said, you're not focusing on the pressures or even that moment, focusing on the feeling of defeat yet. And in fact, you had hit a huge putt on hole 16 going into this final round, like this final 3 holes. So like it was there to do it. Did this loss, and maybe the way it went down, did this loss hurt any more than any other Worlds that you have not won?
No, it's a really interesting outcome, honestly. The thing that I feel the most hurt about is that people are kind of like attacking my character. Win or lose, I gave it my all. I put myself in contention. Like I said, I was always right there. If I wasn't in the lead, I was in second place, and I was there the entire time. And that's all I can ask for in my performance. But really, the only actually thing that I'm hurt about is that people are calling me a cheater, and that is something that I absolutely will never be in my entire life. That is something that I don't care how many strokes I lose by. I don't care what it is. It doesn't even have to be disc golf. Like, I am not going to cheat. I will never want to win that way. And I've actually played board games with my 12-year-old brother, and I've yelled at him and told him, I'm not going to play with you if you cheat. And it's a real source of like concern to me. And round 4, I believe, round 4, hole 10, there was a triple Mando, and I know that I missed the Mando, but in that moment, it's a 6-inch thick rope that's flapping in the wind, and we couldn't tell if I made it or not. And my group made a decision that, you know, benefit goes to the player. We can't tell. We ask the spotter, we ask the crowd, and everyone says, hey, you went under it. And I even asked my caddy, because there was a little bit of like, not hesitation, but just like a little bit longer of discussion. Like, are we sure? Are we sure? What do we think? There's no conclusive answer. And so I even asked my caddy, Gina, I said, like, how do we feel about this? Like, are we sure this is the right call? And she said, you know, your group made the decision, move on. And I did. And that was the best thing that she could have said to me to keep my mind moving forward on the golf ahead. And I was moving forward until, you know, I start seeing all these comments and people calling me a cheater, that I missed the Mando and that's what I get. And, you know, that's the thing that hurts the most. After all these years on tour, I've never had any moments that my character was called into question. And, you know, for me to put up a performance in a fight and a battle for a world title, and for that to be what people are choosing to talk about, that's the thing that hurts the most.
Yeah, I could totally see how that definitely would be the thing that hurts the most. And it's just, I think, opened up a whole new world of, this is where we need to have standards at things at courses like this. I'm not necessarily a super fan of triple Mandos, especially that hole. It wasn't really designed that great for me personally. But at the same time, the top of that triple Mando should have been a wooden beam going across it, and not something that could, not something that could be taken out by the wind or moved by the wind. I think that was where the Mulligan's golf course really dropped the ball in that situation. And all I can think of is hole 15 at USDGC. It's a triple Mando a little bit further down the fairway, but it's the top of the triple Mando are two wooden beams with kind of like this stuff in the middle of it, just all wood, to where if you hit it, you know you hit it. If you went over it, it's very clear to tell you went over it. And if you made the Mando, it's very clear to know you made the Mando. So I think that was a really, really tough situation. But at the same time, your card handled it in the way that they had to handle it. If no one was fully paying attention, in the sense of they couldn't really tell what was going on, or if they were paying attention but couldn't really tell that if it made it or missed, you guys did give the benefit to the player, which was 100% the right call made in disc golf. Those are the rules to it.
Yeah, according to our current rules, which is something that, you know, we are as players trying to strive that we should not be self-officiated. We should have officials on every hole or every call. And you know, we shouldn't be in the position to be making these calls, especially with so much on the line, and we're leaving it to this gray area of, okay, I guess benefit goes to the player. So yeah,
I agree 100%. I think that's another, like I said, where the kind of the PDGA dropped the ball. I think for the FPO lead card at the World Championships going into the second and final round, there should have been multiple spotters on that hole. Any of the volunteers who had cleared up from their spots from spotting before, they should have had a couple of them move over onto hole 10. And at that point,
sorry.
No, you're good.
We had, you know, a crowd control person. We had people holding the scoreboard. We had all those people.
Yep.
Those were the people that were down there waving the quiet flags, saying like, "Hey, yeah, you definitely went under," and the whole crowd started chanting under. And so it's like, you know, what?
Yeah, at that point, what can you do besides build a better triple Mando? I think that's the only, I guess at that point, that's the last thing that we could say about that, is the triple Mando should have been something that couldn't have been moved so easily by the wind.
Yeah, so I'll say this just from my perspective. This is the Nick and Matt show. People sometimes say, hey, you guys are too biased. And I just want to say, like, our show is called the Nick and Matt show. Like, this is not like the unbiased show. It's Nick and Matt. It's what we talk about, what we want to talk about. So, Paige, there was quite a bit of vocality. That's not even a word, is it? Vocality. There's quite a bit of people sharing on social media leading up to Worlds, and including some of the top known competitors in the sport, issues that they were having with Worlds leading into it.
Yeah.
You also were one of those vocal in the U.S. women's, the major, I guess apparently 2 months ago. And you were pretty vocal, but leading into Worlds, I didn't see very much out of you. Was that a strategic decision to keep focus, or what was going on? Do you have any issues with what happened at Worlds?
Yeah, I do have some feedback for the crew and for the PDJ. But I told myself, you know, I was hearing a bunch of it from my fellow competitors and peers, and it was something that I decided that it wasn't going to change. It wasn't going to change prior to the event. It wasn't going to change during the event. So let's just swallow it and get through it. We all have to play the same course, and all we can do is just play. With that being said, I did have a conversation with a PDJ representative after round one, and you know, I had just come off a round that I was beaming from. Not only my score, I did open up the World Championships with a 1,000 rated round, but it was, I just got to play with Juliana Korver, Kristen Tatar, and Kona Panis, and it was like absolutely my dream card. And to finish out the round shooting 1,000 rated, I was beaming. And I was headed to pick up my dad from the airport. He was going to join me, and my brother and his new family was going to join me as well. And a PDJ representative walked up to me and introduced himself. He said he was new, and you know, basically said like, hey, let me know if you have any feedback, any critiques or criticisms. And you know, we are trying to get a better staff, or sorry, not better. We're trying to get a bigger staff and to be better about, you know, being more receptive to feedback, and that we don't want anything to fall on deaf ears. We want to start to hear you guys' concerns and address them, and that was nice to hear and very refreshing. But it caught me off guard that it was after the event had already started, and you know, what he was asking me for was something that couldn't be changed. So it just felt like kind of like the wrong time and place to do so. And you know, going to bed that night, instead of thinking about my round and the shots that I saw and the shots that I threw, it was more about like, man, I really just can't believe that that's the conversation that I just had. And you know, I'll keep it short, but the phrase that really, or the words that really set me off into like a place that I didn't want to be in, he said the words, oh, well, all of that was adequate for the 2019 Utah Open, so we thought that it would be adequate for Worlds. And I said, you know, I'm sorry, but I have to interject, like, how is that even comparable? Like, This is not the Utah Open of 2 years ago. This is the World Championship. And I just felt myself and my passion just coming up and rising, and just was blown away that that was being compared. And like I said, it was something that I was choosing prior to the event to let go and to, you know, basically to shelf it until after Worlds. And then all of a sudden I found myself right in the thick of it, almost defending this stage that the PDJ puts their name on, and just saying like, look at these bleachers right here, look at the stage, you guys sold 1,400 passes, and we're comparing it to the Utah Open. So yeah, there was definitely some things that some concerns that I shared with my peers that were more vocal, but I chose not to focus on those, basically.
Yeah, and some people would say that saying something did do something, and so your perspective is your perspective. I don't know if I was in your position, just me, I might find myself backing off, saying, well, enough people are voicing it. Is that kind of where you were at, or did you actually feel like saying something wouldn't have done something?
Well, I mean, just like I was saying, like, coming up to me after round one, it's like, well, the tournament's already started. Like, none of these things are going to change. I had talked to the tournament staff. I talked to Jeff Spring with the Pro Tour. I talked to Todd Lyon with the PDG, all prior to the event. Prior.
Okay. Her audio is breaking up again. I apologize, everybody. This is not Paige's fault. We literally lined her up. We literally lined her up last minute.
We could make better.
Okay. So let's do this.
Looks like I have 3 bars.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. It was breaking up. I was filling everybody in. This is not your fault, Paige. I already let everyone know that. This is literally a last minute. Thank you very much for coming on. I generally captured what you were saying there. Was, again, you were reiterating it came after round 1 was when the feedback from you was requested. So, generally speaking, you've had a short period of time. This is about a week later. What are some things that you've chosen to focus on since then? Maybe any takeaways, things you've learned? I kind of know who you are, and I'm assuming you've taken some things away, some learning things, and maybe you just want to share with us what those are.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'll keep this one short because I think I kind of touched on it. But you know, it's not that I did anything wrong per se. I was in contention. I was there where I needed to be. I just need to, you know, it comes from experience and just handling pressure and being able to execute under pressure. So I just have to keep finding myself in those situations, and I'm going to overcome those things, you know. I know how to throw every shot. I'm capable of making 80-foot putts. I'm capable of throwing 450-foot shots. I know that I have all the skills. It's just when that moment comes of pressure, being able to execute. And so, you know, I just have to keep myself in those positions to test that golf brain of ours.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Nick, did you have anything you want to wrap up with? I think we're going to cut her loose.
I guess I just want to say congratulations on the new test flight disc that has come out. I've seen a lot of reviews on it. I haven't got mine yet because I think I accidentally got it shipped to Massachusetts.
I'll go get it for you, Nick.
Players.
I'll go get it.
Yeah, I was going to say Matt can go get it and test it out. But anyways, congratulations on another new disc. What are the chances that you can leak the name on the Nick and Matt show?
I believe we're about 95% sure, but that's kind of why I'm here in Detroit. We're having some meetings about it, trying to get the prototypes out, and you know, maybe changing some things up. But I'm pretty sure we're going to go with passion, just because, you know, disc golf is literally every single one of our passions, and you know, I feel like every time I throw a shot, my goal is to be as passionate as possible when I line that shot up and really feel all the feelings of throwing that disc. So it was very fitting for me. It's and I think it's fitting for everyone, you know. That's what we are so passionate about. And yeah, I think that it's going to be a hit, and finally we're introducing a full-time lightweight disc into the lineup, and so I think a lot of players have been asking for that, and Discraft was gracious enough to let me put my stamp on it and design it. So yeah, I feel like we are going to have a lot of success in this disc, and lots of players are really going to enjoy this gap that we've had that we're now filling. And so yeah, I'm excited to get this week rolling and try to get the prototype styled in. And
all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe, Nick, you asked a great question. And Paige, we're going to let you go, but that disc name, Passion, is going to resonate. I got excited. I'm probably going to go grab one of those. All right. So, do you have any closing words you'd like to say before you check out?
No, just stay tuned to my Instagram for the next few days. I'm going to be here. We'll probably go live and do some Q&A, some giveaways, stuff like that. So stay tuned, and thank you guys for all the support. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
All right.
Thank you for coming on the show once again, and best of luck to you, obviously.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Paige Pierce. What an awesome interview. I know it was a little bit digital, you know, a little bit break up there, but in general, we got a lot of good insight there.
Yeah.
Totally appreciate her time on that. And the last thing you asked, Nick, was a great way to finish on it. The passion. That is.
I love it.
And Brody in the chat, I try not to focus too much on the chat, but he just said, imagine like dark horse passion. Like he can get a dark horse stamp on a passion. Woo.
Exactly. So there we go. No, I was more surprised that she was able to say the name of it. I was actually ready for Bob to be like, absolutely not. Nope, it's an NDA right now. And just kind of funny with it. But no, it's cool. It's another Nick and Matt show exclusive where the only way you were going to hear it is to hear it here first. So that's pretty cool.
Nick,
I mean,
but for
unless
our
she posted
listeners,
Yeah.
for our only
Unless she
listeners,
posted about it somewhere else, I have no idea.
yeah, maybe. No, because for our listeners who aren't watching the video, when Nick asked that question, she turned her head to the side to look at Bob to see if she could answer that. So I don't think she's posted that anywhere else. She said 95% sure. So it's not 100%, but passion. Very cool. Very, very cool.
Pretty sweet. I'm excited to try it out.
So my general takeaways, I always try to do like my immediate general takeaway from an interview.
Mm-hmm.
Two things stood out to me: that she lost her breath after missing the putt. The moment was real. That's how I'm putting it together. That moment was real for her. A big moment. Obviously one that's going to be burned in, and hopefully, as she said, she's learning from it. But the other moment, and I can't say I'm surprised because I struggle, not to make this too personal. People that know me really well know that I tend to struggle a little bit with what people think about me. Now, there's 600 people in the chat. There's thousands who watch. There's 50,000 people who watched this last week. Matt, what are you doing on live and produced coverage? If you care what people think. It's something I'm working on. But I was a little bit surprised to say the hardest thing was not the loss. That is almost, she didn't say that word for word. But she said it's the hurt that's coming out of being accused of cheating or lack of integrity when it came to the triple Mando. I genuinely felt like, wow, like that's, I don't know. I believe her. So that's how I'll leave that one. But Nick, do you have any reactions to the interview?
No, I mean, she seems there's obviously hurt coming from losing the world championships in the fashion, the way that it happened. And you have to say congrats to Katrina on making such an incredible shot on hole 18 and to really play those last 3 holes, pretty much to perfection to bring those strokes back that Paige had originally had on her. But for Paige to be able to come on the show this week after a week of reflecting on everything and be able to, be honest with us and be upfront and forthtelling about everything that has happened just shows kind of like who she is as a person. And I really enjoy that. Like, I really enjoyed having players come on after such a big moment. When it came to Paul Macbeth last week and Paige this week, they're obviously the runner-up at the World Championships. And it's not easy for them to talk about being the runner-up at the World Championships when I would assume that most people thought that those were going to be 2 new 6-time world champions this year. So I really do thank Paige for coming onto the show because it's got to be hard. And for her to be able to come on, I think is a great thing about her.
Yeah, honestly, why didn't we have it advertised that she was coming on? We usually try to promote our guests to give them the best benefit of exposure. Not that they need it from us, but like we didn't know for sure.
Yeah,
she was on a flight and literally said, "I will let you know when I land." And so when this interview started, I don't know how much I'm going to have to try to clean it up. When it started, we were literally looking up from like her waist up at her face because she's walking through the airport. So you hear some of that, and it's just so. We appreciate the fact that she took this time. It is hard. It's hard to line up guests sometimes. We've talked about this before. So the fact that this happened was great. We did try to get on Kristen Tatar. I think we mentioned that earlier. And I'm just going to put it out there. It's kind of looks bad on us maybe a little bit, but we tried to get on Katrina as well. It may happen. We're working.
I'm going to try again this week for it. And, shoot my messages out there. We have tried to get her on. We are hoping that it will actually happen soon.
If you would like to have Katrina on the show to hear from her, would you just reach out social media? Hey, we'd love to hear you on the Nick and Matt show, something along those lines. Maybe that would help her, inspire her. She has a lot of fans here. Maybe she wants to talk to them. We
agreed.
We didn't talk. Well, we did last week. Katrina, awesome win for her. Great competitor. What a way to finish it. Nick, I think we've really made it to the end. I was going to talk a little bit about some other topics, but I think we can push that off. We've made it to our 2 hours.
I was going to say, let's save them for the next one.
So someone else has just shouted out. I say someone else. We only give him the attention because you know what? He's the dark horse. Brody Smith says, get Ben Askren next week. So we appreciate that input. That is definitely a name on here. In fact,
he does have the Pro-Am, the Disc Golf Pro Tour Pro-Am coming up soon, hosted, I think, at Ben Askren's Funky Farm. So that is another interview that we would love to get on. For people who don't know, Ben Askren, former UFC fighter, former Olympian wrestler. From what I've heard, arguably one of the best wrestlers in the world ever. So we'd love to get him on. He's also, a disc golfer and hosting a celebrity pro-am event. Brody, him, Paul Macbeth, they all talk all the time. So he, I think, would be someone very, very fun to come on.
Yeah, and it's very relevant, actually, the timing. So, Nick, I'm putting that down on your to-do. Let's get Ben Askren on next week. I can't guarantee
Brody,
it to the listeners.
Him up.
Yeah, but it is very relevant with what he's got going on. And I competed against Ben Askren, believe it or not. Like, I've competed, not in wrestling, not in UFC. Not boxing. It was in disc golf. I did 2011 AM Worlds. He performed much better than me at that. I'd be interested to go again at it, but. That we've got people who like to line up. I mean, you reach out, you let us know who you want. It doesn't always work out, but we work hard to do this. Really appreciate it, guys. Nick, I think we've made it to the end of the show tonight. Hold on. Brody just made me laugh out loud. Matt versus Ben in a wrestling match.
We'll ship you out to Wisconsin so we can get some exclusive Nick and Matt Show YouTube videos up.
What would that look like, Nick? Matt versus Ben. Like, what would that look like? It would just come on.
It'd be about standing up, and then within 3 seconds, you'd be pinned on the floor asking for your mom.
It would be so funny. How much money can we raise for that? That's what I want to know. How much money? Don't those fights get? I mean, big money. They want to see someone like me just get destroyed.
Hey. If we get enough in super chats, I'll let Ben Askren put me to sleep. We're starting out. If I get $1,000 in super chats, I'll let Ben Askren put me to sleep.
Brody just said it. If this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll set up a wrestling match between Ben and Matt. So please, 1,000 likes. Please, if you're watching this video to the end and you get to this point, don't give it a like. No, I'm kidding. We'll take the likes.
Slap a like on it. That's what we want. And that's actually funny enough. It's what I say every single week.
I'm laughing because it's just a really funny scenario for me. Matt, you would get folded like an accordion, someone commented.
Yeah.
Matt would look like a pretzel.
Very quickly.
I'm just going to keep laughing. I am really happy when we can end shows on a funny, laughing note. We talk about a lot of serious things, but that's pretty funny. All right, Nick, let's go ahead and wrap this one up.
All right, for everybody watching and listening post audio, we really appreciate you joining us here at the Nick and Matt Show. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We've had some incredible episodes lately. You can also check out some clips that we post on YouTube. They're not the full episodes, but you can check out certain segments of it. Please comment, like, subscribe to our channel. We had a ton of new listeners within this last week, and all it takes is a quick second to hit the subscribe button, and that way you'll know whenever we go live and whenever we post any new videos. So please, like I said, comment, like, subscribe. Go ahead, leave us a review on those podcast platforms. We are on all of them from what I know. And tell someone you love them this week. Matt's got one last thing to say.
I don't know if I do. I'm just reading all the comments. So go back and read the live comments, everybody. People just want to see whatever happens to me. We'll see about that. All right, everybody. Nick says,
we'll make sure it's recorded.
Go out and tell someone you love them. And I say, Nick, you're awesome.
The Nick and Matt Show, a disc golf podcast designed for you, the disc golfer. Find the Nick and Matt Show on your favorite podcast platforms or stream us live exclusively on the Foundation Podcasts YouTube channel.